This is much better. I don't hear any noise anymore. Great. So let's go ahead and start with some of the questions that Temple likes to ask. I'm just gonna search that page. SDN has a page where you can find out what questions like schools ask. So let me go ahead and look at it real quick. Most of them are going to be pretty much like the same, but schools like Temple or Penn or whatever school they like to ask some specific questions that they are very specific to those schools. Let's see if Temple has any. And you said you wanted to record the interview? Okay, can you speak up a bit? Okay, better. Much better. Give me 1 second. Okay, I got it. So their interview is pretty good. The stress is like really low. Most people thought positively of the interview, so it shouldn't be a big deal. Don't worry too much about it. So the questions that they tend to ask are like, why do you want to go to Temple? What dental instrument was my favorite? I mean, that's BS. They shouldn't be asking those questions because you don't have experience with dental instruments yet. You might, I don't know, but I guess that's very unique. Let's see what else they ask. Questions. Pretty generic, nothing specific. All right, let's get started. I don't want to hold the interview too long, so let's do 20 minutes of interviewing, and then after that, I'm gonna give you like maybe 10 minutes of feedback. So and then wrap up. All right, hey, Rina, how are you? It's great to meet you.
Yeah, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good as well. So where are you coming from today?
I'm coming from Toronto, Canada. The weather is nice nowadays, and yeah, I enjoy traveling up to here.
That's awesome. It's pretty far away. The weather starts to get a bit cloudy and rainy these days in Philadelphia. But I'm sure by the next fall it's gonna be a great weather when you're here. So why don't you get started and talk about yourself? Do you want to tell me a bit about yourself? Why you're interested in dentistry? Who are you basically?
Okay. I do have two names, Rina and Doan.
Okay.
My Korean name, Doan, Do as in Do Re Mi, and one as in number one. It does very really special meaning in Korean, actually, to achieve my dream and reach on top. But it's a bit hard to pronounce it correctly. That's why I think I came up with
Day
this
one.
interesting name. Yeah, Do one,
Oh, do
as
one.
in
Okay.
Do as in Do Re Mi Do. Yeah.
Okay.
Um, so diversity is one word that can sort of describe myself pretty well, as I spent half of my life in Korea and the other half in Canada. So as an immigrant, I had to adjust to new system and to learn new language at the same time. But I was determined to take double the amount of English courses as a student to destroy such language barrier that I had before. So I'm pretty adaptable person,
Mhm.
and I do enjoy adventure in my life, and that's part of the reason why I decided to come to the U.S. to pursue my future goal as a dentist.
Yeah.
And during my free time, I love playing clarinet. The warm sound of it sort of soothes my mind, and the delicate finger positioning sort of take away my attention away from all the stress that I have. And I use this musical talent that I have to volunteer at the local hospital and play for senior patients. And as I played for senior patient, I got to observe many patients suffering from not being able to eat their favorite foods due to the oral health problems. And that's the point where I got interested in sort of like the oral health and dentistry in general. And right now, I'm just truly enjoying my path of becoming a future dentist.
That's awesome. I really love your story. It has that touch of music, and then helping people soothe and get better. Heal music usually tends to heal people better.
Hmm.
That's great. That's awesome. So, do you know why you want to attend Temple University?
First off, I love the location of Philadelphia. It's city of brotherly love, and I love the atmosphere. And as I traveled here, the weather was nice, a lot less chiller than Canada, of course. And Temple University is renowned for its great clinical exposure, and I truly think that as a dentist, one of their important skill is to obtain their clinical skills because the mistake making as a dentist are going to be critical for the health of the patient. So that's part of my reasons that I want to get into Temple University and pursue my goal as a dentist.
Okay, that's great. Um, so, do you have any extracurricular activities that you do aside from music that kind of tells us about your hand-eye coordination or manual dexterity skills?
Hmm.
Do you understand the question?
Hello?
Hello, can you hear me?
It's a bit disconnected now. Yeah. Now it's good.
Okay, cool. Do you have any other hobbies aside from music that connects to dentistry?
Aside from music, I love actually like baking in general. As a person, I love eating sweet things, which sort of contrasts with my dream of becoming a dentist, which relates to oral health trauma. But despite the fact that I want to be dentist, I really love making like sweet chocolate cookies as well. And as I'm preparing or baking cookies, I got to do the precise measurements of each ingredient, and I enjoy when the outcomes are good, and when I share the cookies among my friends and families and I see their smile.
That's awesome. Aside from Temple, have you applied to any other schools?
Um, I did apply to other schools, and I do have strong goal of becoming a dentist in the future, and I just wanted to increase my chance of being accepted this year and to pursue dentistry. And that's why I did apply to a couple other schools other than Temple University.
Okay, great. Right now, let's get into some of the materials that you sent us, such as your GPA, personal statement, etc. I see that you have, what's your favorite class that you took at U Toronto?
Um, my favorite class is actually the course that I'm currently taking right now. It's about diaspora and transnational studies, and that as a science student who's majoring in human biology, it's a bit rare to take such like social science course. And the course that I'm taking now is sort of new to me, and it deals with the immigrant issues and all the other social problems such as refugee issue going on in Syria, and it's a bit new to me, and it expands my knowledge in the word critical issues, and that's why I enjoy this class.
That's really nice to hear. What do you think are your strengths?
Um, there are a couple strengths that I have actually. The first one is that I'm really determined person. I never give up anything that I have weakness on. As I told you before, as an immigrant, I had difficulty adjusting to the new system. And As a minority student in Canada, I had to learn new language and learn the new skills to make friendship with others. But I worked really hard to uh, obtain that skills, and I've never give up on these kind of tasks. And I'm also really organized person. I like to keep things really organized and keep up the promise because as a person, I do believe that making a promise uh, from other people is really critical, and I think that's the most important part of a person. So I'm really organized and determined person. So.
Cool. What are your weaknesses?
My weakness is that sometimes I'm a bit seeing positive ways of each situation. So perhaps as I'm working as a president of University of Toronto Pre-Dental Society, I had to take control over the social events that had happening like in the April. And as I was preparing, one of the exec members was really encouraging and passionate about the event, and he told me that he would like to contact different like university representatives from U.S. and Australian dental. So I believed his encouragement and passion. So I sort of let him do it, but later on, he didn't really take his responsibility fully. So there was problem in the event, and I talked to him in person, and I figured out that he had like his um, brother suffered from like broken legs in that time, so he had lack of commitment to do the event. So I do sometimes see like positive aspects in the person, but since that incident, I learned more about leadership and how to listen and take care about like exam members.
Okay, great. Um, so, what are some of the extracurricular activities that you are participating at the moment or before?
Right now, I'm continuing on my job as a president of the Presental Society, and I'm also working in the Canadian HIV Research Group Student Awareness Club. And the major events that we are running is like Kiss to This for Cancer, which is raising money for HIV research that's undergoing in Canada in general. And as I mentioned before, I'm continuing on as a volunteer musician at local hospital and continuing with the shadowing with dentists.
Wow, that's awesome. That's a lot of things that you're doing right now. How do you manage?
Yeah.
Yeah, how do you manage your studies as well as all those extracurricular activities you're taking on?
So, as a person, I do believe that living a balanced life is critical for my health and my life as well. So, the way I do is that I try to divide my time wisely. So, as I'm studying, if I do have some break time, I use that time really organized to memorize part of like a like I'm like for example, I'm taking like a physiology course right now, and I sort of memorize the pathway of the mechanism of our body while eating lunch, perhaps. So I'm really using my time and splitting my break time, perhaps.
Oh, so okay, you're really good time manager. That's essential to become a great dental student. So let's say if you go into a library right now, what kind of book would you pick, and what book would you like to read?
If I'm going to the library right now, I would pick the novel that was made out as a movie recently because one of my hobby is to read the novel after I watch the movie that is based on, and I like to compare those two, how it is different or not. And perhaps like for example like Harry Potter, which is like popular one, I like to see and compare like film and novel and see how like different perspective each director of the movie and the writer try to got out of their creation.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So, is there a specific book that you'd like to read aside from Harry Potter?
Right now, I could hear.
Can you hear me now? Okay, is it better?
Oh yeah, yeah, it's better.
Let me pull it close to my mouth so that. the mic work properly. What kind of books would you like to read right now, aside from Harry Potter?
Um, right now, aside from the movie-based novel, right now I'm continue to reading one of my favorite series book, which is about Earth humanity. It's based off from the French writer, and it didn't came out with the English translation, so I'm getting off from the internet sources. But it's really interesting dealing with like a new species other than human coming to Earth and adjusting to life, and it has like really interesting plot, and I'm enjoying that.
Cool. So it was a pleasure getting to know you so far. Um, Now I want to ask you a serious question right now. We have about 3,000 applicants applying to Temple this year,
Hmm.
and it's really hard for us to figure out who is a good candidate and whatnot, and who we should pick as a student next year. So why should I pick you over all those 3,000 students that are applying?
Um, First of all, I'm really adjustable person, and I do believe that, and I'm sure that dental student like academic capability that it requires is really different than that of like an undergrad study or high school study that I have completed before. But as an immigrant, I went to adjust to totally different system before, and based on my experience, I do believe that I can adjust to dental school pretty well as well. And I have lots of pre-dental activities, such as like reach shadowing opportunities over about like 200 hours long. And based on my shadowing opportunities, I got to see their job up close, and I do know their responsibilities and um, the general information regarding the career itself. So I'm very determined of becoming a dentist. And uh, lastly, I'm really organized person, and I am able to handle the stressful situation as well. So I think I'm really a good candidate for Temple University.
Awesome. That sounds like you would be a great candidate for our school. So with that said, we would like to welcome you to the next part of our next part of our agenda. So you would go back to your interview room and just sit with other interviewees. And it was great meeting you again. My name is Zia, and I would love to have you come to this school next fall. Thank you.
Thank you so much for connecting.
All right. So what do you think? How do you think you do?
A couple of questions that you asked me, I didn't expect a couple of questions, so I was feeling like rushed, uh, and like some of the answer was not like really organized, perhaps.
Which ones are those questions?
So,
Yeah, which questions are those?
uh, for example, like the thing about like a favorite books and stuff,
Okay, yeah.
and yeah, and like the other extracurricular activities. And like the last question as well, like I provided some like general like answer to you rather than like going into like specific details
Right, makes
about
sense.
my strengths. Yeah.
Um, so here's my feedback. So
Mhm.
when you talked about yourself in the beginning,
Mhm.
I would say at some point I was like, okay, where is she going with
Oh.
what you're saying?
Mhm.
So for example, when you were saying, oh, I love playing this X instrument
Mhm.
and whatnot,
Mhm.
I was kind of like trying to connect how like where you're going because I asked you, tell me who you are and why you're interested in dentistry.
Mhm.
So I was a bit. Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I was a bit like appalled in terms of like where you're going with it. So just make sure that the transition statements are clear. Um, just making sure that you're conveying whatever you're trying to say in a very smooth manner. Because the interviewers are not gonna second guess what you're trying to say, or they're not gonna give you benefit of the doubt. They're just gonna think about, okay, so this is what she said. That's based on that. That's what she is. Um, the funny thing in the beginning you started saying so a lot. So I'm like, okay, that's interesting. So you'll hear yourself and see yourself how you did in the recording. So you exactly know how you said it and what you said. So just study those and see what you can change. One time you said, I destroyed those obstacles, like how you destroyed. Well, the right word would be like overcome challenges to um, as an immigrant. So I think other than that, like the first question was really good, like really well structured, well prepared. I would say there's nothing that I would want to change except some of the feedback that I already gave you. Um, I felt that going forward, when you're talking about your strength, you said you're organized, and the second one you said was I think you said you worked really hard. Is that what you said?
Yeah, like determined.
Determined. What do you think?
I was thinking like I was like sort of like repeating myself over and over.
Yeah,
Sort of.
yeah. You don't want to do that. So if you wanna convey some of the strength that you have, make sure you specify in what scenario you have shown those strength. For example, if you're like a really disciplined, organized person, how do you convey that? Like, how do you mention that to someone that don't know you or are meeting you for the first time? Um, so let's say one of my biggest strength would be patience, and I would give an example. Let's say 2 years ago, when my mother was like really sick, I took a leave of absence from my school and started working so that I can financially support my family. At the same time, things got difficult because of my mother's sickness. At those moments, I had to stay patient and really persist through the situation. And basically, my situation at the end of the year got better. My mom became better, and then I was able to go back to school. Some sort of a story to show that you have that strength would go a long way. The next question was, why did you mention clinical skill? I think you mentioned because I asked you why Temple. Why do you want to go to Temple, right? Okay, so the answer that you gave me was not sufficient. You said because Temple has a great reputation for clinical skills, or clinical, bringing up clinicians out of dentistry. That's not a genuinely good response. And before that, you mentioned you love Philadelphia. The Philadelphia is the city of brotherly love. That's part of it. You want to go to school because of some specific features and interesting things that the school provides. So, for example, if it's clinical feature of Temple dentistry, why do you want to? What about it? Mention that specifically. And that's gonna come from doing a lot of research about this school. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, for example, if I say, oh, I want to go to Penn because why? I want to go to Penn because of the global externship process that Penn established like 2 years ago, and I'm really interested in servicing abroad and provide dental services to people that don't have it. And I'm specifically interested to go to, let's say, Uganda. That's where a partnership is established with Penn and a local university. So that's very specific. You can go into that level of details, and to get to that level, you need to look into their website, read their newses, and figure out what's their specific thing that they're really proud about. And finally, I think overall you did a pretty good job in terms of providing good stories and making sure that you had a compelled collective story. Specifically when I asked you about what did I ask you? Like when you mentioned about your teammate for the Pre-Dental Society, you gave a really good story. The story was really compelling, and I was like, oh, that girl, you have your story together. So that's pretty good. So far, I think you'll do well if you just slow down. Overall, if you slow your pace down, because most candidates when they're nervous, I mean, you shouldn't be nervous when you're interviewing with me because I'm not the adcom, but when you're talking to the adcom, you shouldn't be nervous, because if you're nervous, I mean, they're gonna see it, but that's not the end of the world. If you're nervous, let's say for the first 5 seconds, just take a deep breath and you're gonna come down and speak slowly, because when you're nervous, you tend to speak really fast, and that's not really a good thing to do when you're when you're an interviewee. And also, I come from a different country as well. You come from Korea, I come from Bangladesh. English is our second language. It's probably your third or fourth language. Depending on that, I try to speak really slowly when I'm in an interview because it just makes my words more heard, if that makes sense. Any other question? Do you want to go over some other? We have like 15 minutes, so we can go over like other school if you want.
Maybe University of Minnesota.
Minnesota.
My second. Their interview is like closed file, so that's what I heard. So I've never done like closed file interview.
Okay, closed files. I've done it at UCSF. It's pretty fun because closed file interviews, they're very conversational, so they just want to get to know you. Open file is basically they have access to your file. Closed file is like they don't know your file, so they're not gonna ask about like why did you get like a bad grade. You mentioned something in your personal statement. Tell me more about it. Those are open file. Closed file would be like they just want to get to know you. Basically, the interview that we had in the first session is closed file because I don't have your GPA, personal statement, etc. Open file would be, let's say I'm asking you, Rina, you have a C minus in your organic chemistry. Tell me what happened, or something like that. That would be open file. Or let's say you have a W in your grade, or let's say you mentioned a story in your personal statement. They want to know more about it, so they'll ask you about it. So let's see what kind of questions University of Minnesota ask you. Okay, so let's go to questions. Okay, so this is a great question. Name a time you had a crisis and how did you resolve or deal with it?
That's the question that I left. Actually, it's going to be repetitive from the previous interviews.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay. So I'm currently working as the president at the Dental Society, and we do have lots of events planned out every single year. And one of the biggest events that we usually plan out is the end of the year social event where we sort of invite many different university representatives from Canada, Australia, and US to provide our members regarding to the information about like admissions and life as a dentist and etc. Um, so this is one of the events that we got the most budget out of the student society, and so we planned out accordingly. And one of the executive members that I had under was really passionate about the idea of the event, and he was passionate enough to take his responsibility to contact various schools. And as a president, I saw his passion pretty well, and I saw positive aspects of his passion. So I asked him to contact the schools, and about 2 months ago from the actual event, he certainly notified him that he was incapable of contacting the schools. And I was, of course, afraid because this was one of the most important events that I planned out for the year. So I talked to him individually and later found out that he had a brother who got into the accident and had a broken neck, so he had to take care of him. That's why he had lack of commitment to contact the university. So I sort of understood him, and from that instances, I learned about new sort of leadership and learn how to listen to others and to see situation in many different perspectives. And that was sort of afraid or crisis that I had last year, but I learned a lot from that event.
Okay, what did you learn?
First of all, I learned how to see the situation in different perspectives. So before in this event, I tend to see positive side of people or positive side of situation or outcome. So from that event, I came up with like the how to form like a backup plan perhaps. And for example, but I'm right now I'm also planning like other events in pre-dental society, and now I divide the task like perhaps to a team of executives, so they all can help each other to establish each task and back up each other. So I learned that class, and I learned how to communicate or listen as a leader. So beforehand, I just assigned the task to each executive members, and I expected them to be run like a robot or machine for task completing. But after that event, I started to listen to each executive members and ask like some personal questions or issues, whether they have questions or not for me. So I learned how to communicate as well.
Oh, great. That's actually great. Um, do you have a situation in mind when you had to resolve a conflict?
As a person, I do have like couple events where I had the conflict, but I really don't like fighting over or having the conflict with each other. So the most biggest conflict that I had was with myself, perhaps. So when I'm like studying, I always try to be organized and keep up like all those study plans. But sometimes like exciting events come up, or exciting like movie that I want to watch comes up, and I tend to not do it. But sometimes I sort of pass on with my study plan and go on and watch movie. And those times I have sort of like an internal conflict with myself, whether to proceed and stick to my plan, or whether release the stress by watching movie. And those are the conflicts that I have the most in my life.
Okay. Like quick feedback here.
Mm-hmm.
Usually, like when you're talking about conflict resolution, you're talking about two people. You're not talking about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
the answer that you gave me was sort of like, I wouldn't say it's an acceptable answer to a lot of people, because they're interested in knowing
Okay.
how do you resolve the conflict. So why is the question important to them? So let's say I'm a dentist. I'm a dental faculty at U Minnesota, and then I'm asking this question to you because lately I got into a fight uh, with one of my patient. Like not like fight, but like got into a conflict. So his Medicaid doesn't cover one of the treatment that we are offering to him. But he's very difficult about it because there is no way that we can just treat him for free, because he doesn't have the money to pay for it. But he's very adamant that we take care of him because he has been a patient for 3-4 years. In that scenario, it just became difficult for us to treat him because of his verbal abusive nature, and he was just cursing us out loud, and we sort of like didn't know what to do in that situation, right? So in that specific scenario, I came into the specific scenario. I came in and talked to the patient, calmed him down, listened to his grievances, understood his complaints, and basically made him feel hard. Because if and then at the end of the meeting, he was just really calm, and then he was really quiet and didn't say much, but he agreed to pay $200 to get the treatment done. Before, initially it was $500 outside of the Medicaid payment. Now we are offering him a $200 so that he gets a $300 reduction, but at the same time he's willing to pay out of pocket so that we are not a loser. So we are both winning in this situation. So that's sort of like a scenario you're going to put together. I mean, this is something abrupt because I just came up with it, but from a dental faculty's perspective, they're asking it because they know that if you're a dentist, you're gonna find patients that are difficult. You're gonna find colleagues that are gonna be difficult. So how do you deal with those people? So that's the reason they're asking those questions. If it makes sense. So you want to point out a conflict, even if you didn't have it. Think about a conflict that you had with a coworker, with a classmate, with a project leader or something in your club, and how did you handle that conflict, right? So it's gonna be tough because a lot of the students don't have real conflict. Specifically, like when I was an undergrad, I didn't get into a conflict with any of my coworkers, with any of my colleagues, and I didn't have to deal with it, right? But but as I'm working, as I'm growing up in my career, I do have to come into conflict, and when I do have conflict, there are specific ways you resolve those conflicts so that you are still working as a professional, behaving professionally, and not hurting someone else, right? So that's the main point from all those conflict resolution. Do you get it? All right. So I think we are close to our time. So do you have any feedback? Do you have any advice? How can we improve this process?
So, for example, like about the question regarding to like the crisis and the conflict, um, when you asked about like the conflict, I didn't want to repeat myself about the crisis. So, um, what happens if I'm like run out of like story, perhaps
Yeah. So
in that situation?
So your weaknesses, conflict resolution, resolving problem between two parties, those are similar questions. Like those are gonna come up a lot, and they're similar. They're similar. So I would recommend not just having one story, but have like multiple stories. So you don't run out of your story toolbox. Let's say bring up story from what happened. Let's say you're volunteering at the hospital, and the hospital guard don't want you to play music in the hospital because he feels that it's distracting to the patient and is just disturbing them, something like that. So bring up second story, third story, and if your first story, let's say you already used it, you can use the second and third story later on. All right. So wish you good luck in your interviews, and just keep me updated how they went, and we can talk soon. All right.
Okay, thank you so much.
Take care. Yeah. Bye.